It's Dorm Room Sports Chat. I'm your host, Joey Putrelo. With Go AZ Cats reporters, Evyn Murray, Danny Passovoy, and the color commentary man for Arizona Wildcat Hockey, Nick Nollenberger. This is Dorm Room Sports Chat. Happy spring and welcome to Dorm Room Sports Chat. I'm your new full-time host, Joey Putrelo, and we have a new lineup of analysts for this semester. It's Go AZ Cats reporters Danny Passovoy and Evyn Murray, along with my color commentator for Arizona Wildcat Hockey, Nick Nollenberger. Tonight, we will preview Arizona baseball, discuss Rich Rodriguez's new recruits for Arizona football, run down the cat scratch, play fill in the blank, and wrap it all up with a game of 30 seconds. This Friday, head coach Andy Lopez and his number 24 Arizona Wildcats baseball squad will commence their title defense at High Corbett Field against Copeland State. Former ace Kurt Heyer will be in Tucson to throw the ceremonial first pitch of the game. Evyn, I mentioned how in the preseason polls, Arizona baseball is ranked at number 24. Is this unfair? Is it too low considering the fact that they did finish last season number 1?
Personally, I don't think so. I think that 5 big-time juniors left. Internally, I think they feel like they have something to prove, but from the outside, I don't feel like they're underrated there. I feel like they have something to prove considering the big-time players that did leave.
Look, they dropped for a number of reasons. When you lose your ace pitcher, Kurt Heyer, you lose your starting shortstop, Pac-12 Player of the Year, Alex Mejia, you lose a College World Series Most Outstanding Player, Robert Refsnyder, you're most likely going to drop in the rankings. However, they have guys come back. They have Connor Wade. They have Johnny Field. They have a lot of key guys coming back this year. I think it's a little bit low for the reigning champions, but I think they have a lot to prove to everyone this year.
Yeah, I think internally, I think they feel the same way. I mean, just being around them and practices, I know that they seem to think that they got gypped a little bit, but they just have to prove otherwise, really.
So now, Nick, both the pitching rotation and batting lineup lost some major talent, as Danny and Evyn were just talking about. So of all those players they just mentioned, whose presence will be the most difficult to replace on this team?
Well, when you lose an All-American pitcher like Kurt Heyer, it's going to be a big loss for sure. They're going to bring in a guy with some experience, though, junior Connor Wade. He was 11-3 last year with a 3.96 ERA, 105 strikeouts, 6 complete games. So this kid has a lot of experience. Should be able to come in and fill and take that role of the All-American Heyer. As far as it comes for Alex Mejia again, he anchored that middle infield. You know, he was a star center fielder. He was an all Pac-12 player. So that's going to be a big loss. He helped out a lot offensively and defensively. So that's going to be tough. The Cats, they had a good role last year. You know, they went on that big run to win the title. So we'll see if they can have some of that magic again coming into 2013.
And speaking of Alex Mejia, I know that, freshmen are going to have to take over big this year. You have Kevin Newman, a freshman who's looking to take over Alex Mejia's place as shortstop. So you have freshmen taking over, and it seems like everyone has to be pretty versatile because, nothing's set in stone this year, and that's kind of the difference from this year from last year, it seems like.
I completely agree with you. Alex Mejia is going to be incredibly hard to replace. Obviously, Pac-12 Player of the Year. This guy was kind of the cement that held together this Wildcat lineup. But you're also losing guys like Seth Mejias-Breen at third base. You're going to have guys like Joseph Maggi playing a big role this year. Brandon Dixon playing a bigger role this year. Riley Moore might not be able to play every game at catcher this year. You might have to see guys like Jordan Berger step up in the catcher position, designated hitter. So it's going to be really cool to see how Andy Lopez kind of utilizes all these guys.
Yeah, I think Andy should be fine definitely this year. You know, the guy, he's a 2-time national championship coach with 2 different clubs. So he's a veteran coach. He's been here before. Last year, the difference between last year and this year is just that they have expectations. Last year, there was really no pressure on the team. You know, nobody thought the Cats were going to do what they did. They got on a roll. You know, they won the national title. So this year, it's going to be a little bit different, you know, with that pressure. But hopefully they can see what they can do with some young guys at different positions.
And I think it's also a good thing in a way that they got ranked as low as they did, because coming off of a national championship, no one's going to be cocky, I don't think. But it's good to still have that motivation instead of just like, we just won the national championship. So I think that also gives them a boost that they got ranked lower, just because they do have something to prove. And then offensively, I think Johnny Fields is going to be a big guy, junior, for them, because, I mean, he was Pac-12 batting champ last year, and I feel like he's going to contribute a significant amount for this team and be one of those guys who is going to replace or somewhat help what we lost from last year.
Look, there are a lot of parts of this team that are actually, in my opinion, improved from last year. The pitching staff as a whole is incredibly improved. You have Matt Troop, the closer, who closed out the College World Series. He's coming back. He's only a sophomore. You have guys like Tyler Crawford, who held the hold role last year. He's coming back. You have freshman Cody Moffitt, Nathan Bannister are going to play key roles. You have guys like Tyler Hale, Stephen Manthe, all strong right-handed pitchers competing for that third spot in the rotation, along with James Ferris and Connor Wade. I think the pitching staff is much improved. It's gonna be a more speed versus power than it was last year. But I see this Wildcat team doing very well.
Yeah, guys, and I think just, Nick, you brought it up, Andy Lopez, the head coach, he is just so amazing at bringing that team together. And like you guys were saying, the Wildcats weren't expected to do a lot last year, or especially once they got into the College World Series. You know, they upset the defending champions to win it all. And I think that just the number one thing is players come and go, and it's going to be hard to replace Alex Mejia and Kurt Heyer. But at the same time, in Lopez, we should trust. All right, now, Danny, the Pac-12 is loaded with elite baseball programs at USC, UCLA, Stanford, Oregon. Which team in the conference will present the toughest challenge this season for Arizona?
The toughest challenge is definitely Stanford. Stanford is the cream of the crop as far as college baseball goes. They have Mark Appel coming back, pitcher that should have gone in the top 10 in the MLB draft last season, decided to come back. He's as good as it gets. You also have guys like Austin Wilson out of Los Angeles, California, now playing a really key role for Stanford. He's an outfielder. Brian Rogera coming back. But you also have teams like UCLA with Adam Pluko, one of the toughest pitchers in the league. ASU with Trevor Williams, one of the toughest pitchers in the league. The Pac-12 is excellent baseball. And every year you kind of see the up and down with Pac-12 baseball and SEC baseball. The only difference is SEC teams get more people at the games. But the competition is right there, and the Pac-12 is up there with the best of them, and so is Arizona. But I think eventually Stanford ends up winning the Pac-12 this year. They're just too strong.
Definitely. I mean, this Arizona team kind of reminds me of Oregon State when Oregon State was able to win 2 national titles in a row. So hopefully, I mean, Arizona obviously got one last year. Oregon State was pretty underrated when they did it. No one thought they could win 2 in a row. It's like every year there's these surprise team. It was Fresno State a couple years ago. So, you know, you never know with college baseball. You know the Pac-12 is going to be solid, though. So the Cats are going to have definitely have their hands full this season.
Yeah, and guys, but you got to consider that last year Stanford was pretty much in the same spot going in as the favorite, so you never know who could sneak in. All right, well, thanks for the insight, guys. Stick around because we're breaking down Arizona football's fresh batch of recruits in just a bit. You're watching Dorm Room Sports Chat on UATV3, and I may or may not have practiced that for 20 minutes and 44 seconds earlier today. Let's go to commercial break.
I'm Derek Williams, the former U of A Wildcat. You're watching UATV. Don't change the channel.
may tune out someone they see on a median trying to sell newspapers.
Those extra few hours of having to swipe your CAT card to get in at night might be keeping non-U of A students out of the library.
And while some are traveling to Mexico for cheaper gas, others are forced to pay those high prices at the pump.
Students and parents are always invited to come cheer on the Wildcats.
We'll see you back here next week for another edition of Wildcats.
Welcome back to DRSC. Let's get to know Arizona football's new faces, shall we? Evyn, head coach Rich Rodriguez has brought in 2 4-star recruits, and I want to know what you think. Which one of them is the most promising?
All right, well, 4-star recruits, 3-star recruits, same difference. But if we're going with that, Anu Solomon, quarterback, he's very good, but is he going to make the quickest impact? I don't think so. And then we have Logan Stott, offensive lineman. I think he's going to be able to be a factor soon. But what I really want to talk about is anyone who came in on defense. Really, we have a lot of 3-star recruits that coming in on defense. David Macca being one of them. He's a 3-star recruit. 6'3", 312 pounds. He's a big dude. And obviously, if you watched Wildcat football last year, you know that we needed defense. So I think that's the biggest takeaway. But as far as the 4-star recruits, Anu Solomon is going to give Jesse Scroggins a little bit of a test, I guess you could say, but I don't think he's going to make the quickest impact.
Look, once you get to D1 college football, these stars mean nothing. It doesn't matter if you're a 3-star, a 4-star, or a 5-star. It's how you adjust to college football.
Yep.
I see guys like Samaji Grant, athlete number 31 in his class, adjusting very well. It's going to be interesting to see Pierre Comier, Zach Green, how these running backs kind of follow in Kadeem Carey's footsteps. They might not be, they'll kind of play a Daniel Jenkins role that he played this year, but they could be very good players, but it doesn't matter whether they're a 3-star, 4-star. Guys like Jack Banda, big D end. He's a 3-star. He could turn out to be a 5-star college athlete.
Yeah.
You never know. So none of these rankings really matter at this point.
And I think that's what, after National Signing Day is all said and done, I think Rich Rod said the same thing, and I think people who follow recruiting in general kind of think the same. Rich Rod went for guys who have high character and fit the system, and I think that at the end of the day, that's what matters in your players rather than whether they're a 4-star or whatever the case. So I'm with you there, definitely, and I think our defensive players are obviously going to be the most promising because they recruited them and they think that's what fits the system. So I'm going with that rather than the rankings part of it.
Yeah, coaches or scouts always like to rank guys, give them stars so we can measure them. It doesn't really matter, like you guys just mentioned. J.J. Watt, who's going to be defensive player, I believe won the defensive player of the year. He was a 2-star tight end coming out of high school. So you never know with these guys. It's all about getting guys that can fit your system, guys that can fit your scheme. So, Solomon, the quarterback, though, this kid looks pretty good. It looks like he could fit Rich Rod's system. Guy's dual threat. He can sit in the pocket and step and throw, and he looks like he's got a pretty good arm, too. So it's exciting right now for Arizona football.
And so with the quarterback situation, you guys just mentioned the 2 that were brought in. Who's going to be the Wildcats quarterback this season? I wouldn't throw B.J. Danker out of that mix either. He played pretty well against Colorado, and there's probably going to be a pretty good quarterback competition this summer at Arizona football camp.
Yeah, definitely. There's gonna be a lot of competition this year. Matt Scott, of course, took over last year, played pretty good, a 5th-year senior. This year, there's gonna be a lot of competition. Of course, B.J. Danker got some playing time last year, and now we're gonna bring some guys in like Nick Isham is a transfer from La Tech, and then we're gonna get Jesse Scroggins, a transfer from junior college, El Camino Junior College, and he's also he was at USC, transferred to junior college, and now he's coming into Arizona. And then, of course, we got Solomon as well. So there's going to be definitely a battle at the quarterback position. It's going to be a good test this spring so you can take the step forward and take the job.
Yeah, and I think Rich Rod is normally pretty open with letting there actually be competition. I feel personally, I think Scroggins, don't quote me on this, no, but I think...
You're on TV, you're going to be
I know,
quoted.
right? I'm going to be quoted. But Scroggins, I think he's going to take it. But I think Anu Solomon will give him that battle. I think he may play a few games. But as far as B.J. Danker, I don't know really where this leaves him because I know you guys have a lot of hope in him or think that he has a chance at this as well. And I don't think Rich Rod is opposed to that idea of competition. But at the same time, I think Jesse Scroggins is definitely looking like the promising. And Rich Rod has a lot of good things to say about him too.
Yeah, Jesse Scroggins is one of the best high school quarterbacks to come out. He ended up going to El Camino College for the last few years. But he's kind of really similar to Matt Scott. He's a pocket quarterback, very athletic though. He could get out of the pocket, create second chance opportunities, and run for a few yards. He's good. Anu Solomon, dual threat quarterback. He can move as well. Doesn't have as strong of an arm as Scroggins, but he's going to definitely give him that kind of competition. I don't see Danker really playing a role in this competition. I think I see the third guy as Nick Isham. Nick Isham, out of Westlake High School in LA, went to Louisiana Tech, lost to Cameron over there. But this guy, he's got legs, man. He can move, and he's got a pretty good arm. The only thing that's holding him back is his size. He's not a very tall guy. But he can move, and he kind of, in my opinion, fits the system pretty well. I see it coming down to those three, and it should be exciting to see who takes it in the end.
And another part of this, too, I know Jesse Scroggins comes from community college, so you have someone that's hungry there. But then Anu Solomon, I've heard rumors, or at least people who have seen him in practice, he's not much of a practice player. He turned it on when the lights are on. But at the end of the day, it's going to be who practices the best before season. So I don't know if that's going to work not to his advantage or how that's going to play out for him as far as that. But I know that Scroggins has that hungry aspect to him as well.
But also the Wildcats are looking for winners right now. We need to get to the Rose Bowl. That's what the Wildcats need. Anu Solomon, 4-time national championship, I think Bishop Gorman. This guy is a winner. He might not show it in practice, but he knows how to win, and that's kind of the mentality that the Wildcats need.
Yeah, but then you go through all of spring camp, and summer, and you're not performing in practice. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what's going to get you the starting spot.
Eventually, yes. But, I mean, they do inter-squad games. They do red-blue games.
That's true.
You'll see who can win. You'll see who can pass. You can see who's going to hit those open guys, who's going to miss those open guys, who's going to see the lane, take off for 10 yards, get the first down on third down and long. So it's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Rich Rod, he didn't recruit Danker. You know, of course, he just came in here last year, so he doesn't really have a lot of ties to him. You got to give Danker some credit for the fact that he does have experience. Solomon is a true freshman, and then you got Scroggins is coming in as a transfer. Scroggins has had some injury issues. That's one of the reasons why he wasn't able to win the backup job behind Barkley at USC, and that's why he was he had to transfer. So this is gonna be interesting. You never can complain when you got some depth at the quarterback. So you know the Cats look like they're in a good place right now at the quarterback position. So.
All right, well, I was just going to say, what's BJ Danker, chopped liver, but all right, I'm glad you put that in there. All right, but now, Danny, Arizona does have a promising recruiting class, but is it the best in the Pac-12? If not, then which program?
Absolutely not. It's not the best in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
It's really not even that close. UCLA and USC are just on another par right now with recruiting. Jim Mora Jr. This guy, second year with UCLA, and he's completely changing the face of the program. He's got 6 ESPN 150 athletes, 14 4-star, 11 3-star. He got 3 huge offensive linemen, people to protect Brett Hundley and allow him to run. He also got Asante Woolward, the number 1 dual threat quarterback ahead of Anu Solomon. He's also got a very good safety in Priest Willis. This team is going to be good for a long time, but you also have to look at SE. Only 13 commits so far, 9 of which are ESPN 150, though. They got Max Brown, quarterback out of Seattle, Gatorade Player of the Year. This guy is going to be unreal. I see him really stepping up, probably taking over the job over Max Wittick, who didn't do much for SC in the Sun Bowl. Those two teams just, they recruit, and they recruit out of LA, their home, and they're going to be taking over the Pac-12 for the next few years, in my opinion.
Yeah, you mentioned Brown. That's another reason why Scroggins was going to transfer. He was having trouble winning the battle with the guys that were there, and then Brown comes in, who, like you mentioned, Gatorade Player of the Year. So there's some tough competition. This is a good football team that UCLA is going to have, and USC. I know USC had some trouble with the recruiting as far as they didn't have high numbers, but they're going to be good. They always recruit. It's like you mentioned. We mentioned before the telecast that LA, that area, always is a hotbed for talent. So it's easy for them to recruit in their backyard, and SC and UCLA are definitely going to be at the top of the Pac-12 for sure.
Well, I can't wait for spring camp then, and can't wait to see if you guys are right about all that. So until then, stay tuned for the Cat Scratch, and after our analysts will debate who is the most overrated team in college basketball. You're watching Dorm Room Sports Chat on UATV3. Don't go away.
Hi, it's David Hasselhoff, the Hoff. Get Hoff with UATV. Stay tuned. Don't change the dial.
The life I lead is the life of a dog. I may have fleas, but I run a yard. I see those clones looking down on me, but unlike those clones, this dog is free. Oh Lord, it's a dog's life. Oh Lord, it's a dog's life, dog's life. Oh Lord, it's a dog's life.
And now we present to you the Cat Scratch. That's it. No, I'm just kidding. It's not it. The number 7 Arizona basketball men's basketball game against California has gone final. The final score was 77-69 California. The women's basketball team fell to number 6 California, 91-86 at home. Also, the softball team capped off its Kajikawa Classic appearance with a 14-3 loss to number 14 Florida. However, Saturday was a better day for the Wildcats as they crushed Cal Poly 10-3 and walked off with a 3-2 win over San Diego State. Okay, analysts, we've seen roughly 4 months of college basketball, and so I think it's now a fair time to fill in the following blank. The most overrated team in the nation this season is...
Going first. Arizona. I'm going with Arizona. I think Arizona has been overranked, overrated this whole entire year. I don't know if it's that I constantly watch them and am frustrated with it, but we have Mark Lyons, who rarely ever plays like a point guard. Besides in the Stanford game, which he had 6 assists and 25 points, had the game of his life. And so finally we're thinking that we see glimpses of this point guard. You have our top rebounders are Brandon Ashley and Caleb Tarzewski, who only rebound 5 a game. I just think if we were to play Michigan or Kansas or any of those teams, I think that we would be blown out, if you ask me.
What about the game against Florida, though? It was a fluke?
I don't think we really, clearly we won the game at the end of the day, but I don't think that game was actually won by Arizona. I think Florida outplayed Arizona the majority of the time, and then Arizona came in clutch, which, that's what good teams do. They do come in clutch. But at the end of the day, they're not playing their best basketball, and I don't know if we have it, but Arizona has the talent or maturity this year to do it.
See, before I go into who my overrated team in college basketball is, I'd like to say for the Florida game, it was a different mentality than it was for the rest of the season. We came out strong. We played strong that entire game. We kept with Florida, and at the very end, we pressured them. We played defense. We played the tightest defense we've played all year, and that's how we got that win. But when you come out slow, like a 19-3 start to UCLA, you come out sluggish like you did tonight against Cal, like you did against Stanford, like you did against Oregon, that shows that you're overrated. No team comes out against teams like that and are number 7 teams in the nation.
I have to say, though, as far as the UCLA game goes, and I know it sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but as far as the UCLA game goes, they just weren't buying shots. I think all the shots they took were good shots, and I think Sean Miller would back that up and say the same thing. And then once you are off to that slow start, you don't play like the team you really are, because you're trying to play individually and you're not trying to play as a team. So I feel like you're right. We do get behind and have slow starts, and then our team becomes dysfunctional and not playing like a team. So I think at the end of the day, you are right, because our team becomes very disconnected after slow starts.
Can you even remember the last time? What was the last game that Arizona got off to a strong start? I can't remember
I asked
the last
the questions
one.
around here, Danny. JK,
I think one of the problems, though, is like it continue to happen. This has happened all season. They don't have a go-to guy. Is it Lyons? Is it Johnson? Is it Hill? They don't have a go-to guy. There's no guy who's going to dominate. When it gets into the tournament, it's like those guys like Steph Curry. Those guys can just take, like when Steph Curry did it like a few years ago with Davidson. Guys who can take over the game. I feel like there's just no guy on the team that they feel confident to give the basketball to and take over the game. And that they're going to struggle in the tournament because of that. And I feel like you're going to struggle all year.
I mean, I think at times you do have Mark Lyons. I think if you can think of one person, or Solomon Hill, but at the same time, then you have Kevin Parham hitting these big shots in crunch time. So I think there's a lot of guys that try and bring them back, like the older guys, but you're right. I don't think there's a absolute go-to guy. I don't know if necessarily that's the answer, but I agree with you.
Danny, who's your most overrated team?
Right now, my most overrated team is Louisville. Louisville's had losses to Notre Dame, 5 overtime game last night. Russ Smith, their leading scorer, taking just some unbelievable shots. Nowhere close. Kind of ruined the game for them, in my opinion. But then again, it's a 5 overtime game. So many people fouled out. So many people in foul trouble. It's really hard to tell. But losses to Syracuse, Duke, Villanova, Georgetown. They still have to play Syracuse, Cincinnati, Notre Dame, St. John's. Again, they're 7-4 in the conference. Barely beat Illinois State early in the year. Chase Bohannon, great player. Russ Smith, Dang, all solid NBA-type prototypical players. However, Louisville's not really meshing right now, and they lost a few early in the season in a row. I just don't see this team being that strong when you come March.
Well, you always, as long as they have Paterno as the coach, you know they're going to somewhat compete. You could tell how frustrated he was last night, though. His point guard's taking three-pointers 5 feet behind the three-point line in overtime to try to win the game. So it was clear frustration on his part. I don't think he was, those were definitely not the plays he was calling up. So I agree with you. They seem a little bit overrated, but this is just so much parity this year in college basketball. You just don't know who's going to take it this year. So it's quite interesting. It's fun to watch, that's for sure.
So, Nick, who's your most overrated team?
You guys are going to disagree with me, but I'm going to take Michigan. They rely too much on the big three, Hardaway, Burke, and Robinson. They just give them the ball, and they shoot from the top of the key. There's just no flow. They're the 21st rank. They 21st in points per game, 118th in rebounds per game, and 42nd in assists per game. So they just rely too much on the outside shooting. They don't have a big man who can really dominate. And I don't know. What do you guys think? That's my most overrated team for sure.
Well, I actually really like Michigan. Oh, were you about to go?
No, I was laughing because I'm with you, but go.
Okay, I actually really like Michigan. I think Trey Burke is one of the elite players in college basketball. Hardaway, on the same level as Burke. These two guys are going to be very good NBA athletes in the future. You also have McGray down low. You know, he doesn't put up the points, he doesn't put up the rebounds, but he's a big presence down low, and he causes a lot of distractions and gives open opportunities to guys like Burke, to guys like Robinson, to guys like Hardaway. I think Michigan's a very good team. I think that they go very far in the tournament, unlike Louisville, who I see kind of fizzling out Sweet 16.
Yeah, I mean, it could be the problem that the Big Ten is so darn good this year that it's hard to tell who's like the best team. But I feel like every time the AP wants to give them that #1 ranking, just because of these big names, and they tend to fall. They fell to Ohio State when they were #1 in the country, and now they struggled with Wisconsin and lost to them as well. So every time they get a little bit of hype, they're struggling. But it's like I just mentioned, it's the Big 12 is just absolutely loaded, or pardon me, Big 10 is absolutely loaded.
I don't think it's the Big names that are getting this team the credit that or the overrated, as you say. I think that Trey Burke is raw. I think the whole team is raw. Clearly, they're very good on offense. Could they improve defensively, rebound-wise, maybe distributing the ball a little bit better? Yeah, but this team is raw. And I think those are the teams that are going to make the run in the tournament. And so that's my opinion on Michigan, because I feel like, I mean, they're losing to good teams. And at the end of the day, college basketball teams being overrated is kind of tough, because once it gets into conference play, it's so tough, and I feel like it's anybody's game. And if you're playing the best team in the nation, or whether it's Michigan or whatever the case, your opponent's bringing the best game that they have to you. So I think overrated is an interesting term in college basketball, because I think definitely the Big Ten is extremely tough.
Well, thanks again, analysts. I like the insight there. Hang out with us for just a little bit longer, because after this short break, our analysts are going to play a game of 30 seconds. You're watching Dorm Room Sports Chat on UATV3.
Come game time, pressure falls on the shoulders of this season's drum major.
For an entire week, there's golfing, food, drinks, and entertainment that doesn't stop when the sun goes down.
If you are not yet registered to vote, here's what an Arizona voter registration form looks like.
Bundle up, Wildcats, winter is almost here. Reporting from the UA Mall for Wildcats, I'm Shay Sorensen.
All right, it's time for a quick game of 30 seconds where Evyn, Nick, and Danny each have 30 seconds to voice one of their opinions about any topic in sports. Evyn, you're leading off.
I'm almost carrying on the overrated. I'm talking about Kansas, because they are my team as well. Kansas has lost to TCU, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. I don't know what their problem is exactly. I feel like it has to be chemistry, because TCU was the biggest upset in 20 years, technically in RPI, which is outrageous. I think there's a chemistry issue. They don't win 18 straight games for no reason, and I'm pulling for you, Rock Chalk. Get off me!
Nick, tell them what's good.
Well, you know, the Super Bowl was just last week, and football season never really ends. On February 20th to the 26th in Indianapolis, they're going to have the NFL Combine, and you will see ex-Arizona Wildcats quarterback Matt Scott showing off his skills. He is ranked the number 9th quarterback in the draft, so we'll see him there. And then the NFL Draft is just a couple months away as well on April 25th. So the season never really ends. Hopefully we'll see a couple Wildcats taking that draft. Matt Scott, Dan Buckner, and Totogi, the fullback, are going to be a couple options for NFL teams.
That's an interesting topic that could be debated in the future. Now, Danny, slam the door.
Okay. One of my biggest pet peeves about sports was one of my favorite things in the world, rushing the court. However, this year it seems like it's happening way more often than it probably should. Teams like Oklahoma, teams like Wisconsin, who come up with big wins against teams like Kansas, who are 3 losses in a row. Oklahoma's 14-7. I get it's a tough conference game. I understand that. But you don't need to rush the court for that. TCU with no wins in the conference beating Kansas, fine. That's what you really should be rushing the court for. But Oklahoma, you're 14-7. You're a bubble team. No way. Get out of here.
So you're tighten security maybe at the front row.
No, maybe take pride in your school
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm
realize
saying.
that your win wasn't like that. If you're Wisconsin, why are you rushing the court when you have a decent program who's normally made it to the tournament?
I think it just looks degrading to your
That's
program.
what I think. That's
like
what I
you
think.
guys were not supposed to win this game. You guys were not good enough to win this game, but it's a miraculous win.
Would you have rushed after 5 overtimes, Notre Dame?
Yes, that is the one exception for me. Past 4 overtimes in a top 25 elite game, fine. You know what? You've stuck it out that long, go for it. But 14-17 rushing the court against a three loss team in a row, no.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, so much for 30 seconds, but still great stuff, guys.
Oh, I thought it was a minute and 30 seconds.
Make sure you tune in again next week for another exciting episode. And please excuse my voice today. I don't want to take anything away from Notorious B.I.G. because he is the illest, but I'm still very under the weather. For our analyst, I'm Joey Putrelo. Thanks for watching us, and remember, you are watching Dorm Room Sports Chat on UATV3.